All right, so everybody's in. Hey guys, my name is Brittney Karbowski. This is my Q&A. I like to have you guys provide Q, and then I provide A. And if there is no Q, then I will probably talk about pizza or just try to fill the space somehow. Just so that, like, let's see, this year we've had kind of a busy year. I'll say a couple roles that I'm in case you're not familiar. I'm Wendy in Fairy Tail and Black Star and Soul Eater, Pride and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I am Ikaros in Heaven's Lost Property. I am Rimuru, and that time I got reincarnated as a slime. This is my slime bra. Mikoto, Misaka, and Railgun. Yuri and Angel Beats. And many, many more. I've done over 400 titles. Yeah, and I've been doing it for 14 years. Thank you, guys. Thanks. Thank you. So usually if somebody's like, I don't know what you do, I'm like, you tell me what you watch, and I'll tell you in a minute, and it's way easier than... Yeah, tell me what you watch. And what sucks, too, is that, like, IMDb and behind the voice actors have very limited lists of everything. They really don't have everything. So if you're looking... It's kind of impossible to list everything. Yeah, the Anime News Network actually is a very good place, and I find it to be quite dependable, and it updates on a regular basis. So if you guys ever want to know a voice actor and like to get a real good list, a real in-depth list, like, were they this bit part in Black Butler? Like, that's where you go, and you'll be able to see it. They even surprise me. Things that I forgot are on Anime News Network. And I'm like, oh, I forgot I am in that show. Like, I told someone I wasn't in that, but oops. Yeah, so does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Long time no see.
I know, good to see you, man.
Can you talk about working on Data Live Season 2?
Definitely. I can't get into too much detail because this is not an 18 and up panel, but I will get into as much detail as I can. It was great, honestly. I had no idea that they were even gonna make a Season 2. Of Data Live, and that was really cool. The way that we think about Kaguya is that she's like the Thor of the twins. You know what I mean? She's like, I'll have another. Like, that's, I don't know. We just figured that's who she was, personality-wise. Like, she's very brash. She's very opposite of her sister. You know, and, you know, who came up with that was Anthony, when he was directing it. And he was like, oh yeah, she's like Thor. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. And so that whole time we were playing, it was actually kind of fun because we got to pretend like, you know, a little bit in the back of my mind she was Thor. Yeah, but everything else I can't go into detail of because it is a little bit lewd. A lot of the titles I do, my daughter can't watch. And probably won't be able to for a very long time. Anyone else have any questions? Yes?
I just wanted to say right away that that time I got reincarnated as slime has been my favorite anime of the entire season. I would literally get home on like some of the worst days, and I'd see a new episode up, and I'd just cheer me right up.
Ah, makes me so happy.
What is like your favorite anime you've worked on?
I always have one at the time. So like I haven't for years stopped working on Mikoto Misaka or Wendy from Fairy Tail. There's some that have continued on, and some that pick back up. So I never look like. I can't judge it as a favorite until it's totally over, and there aren't that many of those, right? So what I do instead is say that I'm working on 7 to 10 roles at one time, usually, that's about right, because I work at 2 to 4 different studios. So 7 to 10 roles at one time, I will have a favorite of those. Lately, obviously, Slime is my favorite. I got to say things in the show that I, in my entire career, have never gotten to say, and I was like, okay, well, I can die now. Because, you know, I got to say, come at me, brah. You know what I mean? In an anime, I got to say that. I got to be like, sup, my guy, and it's all good in the goblin hood, and hey diddle diddle, there's no fiddle, and all kinds of fun things. So I had so much fun when I was in there with the script that it almost, sometimes it's not necessarily about the character of the show as much as it is about the experience recording it. And the experience recording it was so freaking epic. And then on top of it, the show was actually really good. You know what I mean? Like at the beginning, I was just having a lot of fun with it. I was like, it's a little slow. We don't know how this is gonna work out. Then it picked up real quick, and it was amazing. Also, you gotta really love Rimuru as a character, because I can't say that if I had lived his life before and had such a non-fruitful life, and maybe what a lot of people would consider not a successful life, and then was taken away really young. He was only, you know, he was young. In our days, young, you know, maybe not in 1942, but he was young to us. We live like 100 years now, you know what I mean? So 30, in your 30s, that's young. And he was murdered and his life was taken away like that. I can't imagine if I got to restart over, reincarnated, I can be anything I want, and I'm all powerful, that I would be good if I was him. Because I would probably be like, man, nah, I already tried the good way. Good way didn't work out. I'm gonna be a demon lord. Like, how do I do this? Right, immediately. That's what I would have done. But he decided to be good for no reason other than he's just a good guy. And he not only is good, but he helps out over and over again people, like everybody but Gopta, poor Gopta. I don't know. But so I really respect him as a character. I think he's pretty awesome. He's a pretty awesome guy. Right now, we call him the homie in the studio. He's our slime homie. But yeah, I'm having a good time with him. Yes?
Do you have any funny stories from working on a set of Fairy Tale?
Oh, yes, definitely. Have you ever heard the blooper reels?
Yes.
You know what's really funny about those is nobody's actually cussing. We're saying words like father, and he's beeping it out to where it sounds like. So that's really just them playing with the beeps. There's no actual bad stuff really going into it, so which makes it even funnier.
Sometimes are you tempted though?
Sometimes. I mean, it won't actually make it onto the blooper reel that way. You know what I mean? It's pretty funny though, because you know she'll say, "I will find your father," and he will beep out the find word, and that sounds like something very different. But it's not actually that. But so we've had a lot of fun with that, like, you know, just messing around. Sometimes we leave each other bombs. Pretty much, Wendy is like a very sweet character, so it's very easy to leave a bomb that will shock someone in a Wendy voice, you know. But yeah, there's been good times. We have a lot in Slime too. We have a lot of very hilarious bombs that I don't think will ever see the light of day. I don't think that Kodansha's gonna let us do that, so. I wish, but it's really up to the Japanese animators if they want to let us do that, because it really is kind of really destroying their title, like, you know what I mean? And there's clips out there of like it not being, we couldn't ghost stories it, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I don't see ghost stories ever happening again.
That was hilarious.
It was wrong. It was a lot of wrong, and I feel guilty about things I've said in that show.
You just said though, do whatever you want as long as you keep it to make it successful.
Well, yeah, it was, I mean, and that's the story that we've all been told, was like that, you know, Stephen Foster was pretty much famous for messing up anime, or like pretty much being very liberal with translations and just doing whatever he wanted. And he's like, yeah, I don't like this. And he would change it. But we, as dub artists, are supposed to be doing as close as possible to the Japanese, and any liberties that we take are usually because we're trying to translate culture. Like, so the whole goal of a dub is to reach a larger audience. So, you know, when people are like, oh, I hate dubs, you know, dub versus sub, I'm like, do you appreciate how big anime has gotten? Because that is in part due to dubs. It's because it has expanded the audience, because now more people can watch it than ever. Now it's not this little niche thing, now it's just part of cartoon world. I know it's not a cartoon, but you know what I mean, it's part of the world of cartoons.
Late 90s that it became such a thing over here, because things were getting dubbed.
I mean, more recently it's gotten a lot bigger, but it has a lot to do with dubs. So it's like, I don't care if you watch a dub, I don't care if you watch a sub, just pay for it, so that we can keep doing this. You know what I mean? I'm never the point, I'm like, oh, dubs are better because I do dubs. No, if they didn't do the sub, I wouldn't be able to do the dub, so I'm very appreciative of the sub. And most of the time when we do it, we are doing as best as we can to try to match it. The only times that sometimes things are different is, say that the character is supposed to be sexy, and she is really high-pitched, and to us, that is not sexy. To Americans, that's not usually sexy. What we think is sexy is like, you know, really overtly, and we had to talk kind of whisper. That's what we like. So sometimes characters that are sexy will get a little bit lower of a voice in the dub. And that the only reason is so that it reaches an American audience, and it translates the way it should be translated, because a lot of us don't find little girls to be sexy. So, yes.
With that, there's quite a few, like, there's also the voice actors, like some who have a female voice actor in the original, get a male one in the dub, and then vice versa.
Yeah, well, usually when I have voiced a lot of boy characters. There's reasons why they do that. I don't know if it's the same in Japan, but a lot of times they're girls in Japan. So, like, Black Star was a girl in Japanese. I was Eddie in Angels of Death. That was a girl in the Japanese. So a lot of times that's the way that they'll do it. But also, you have to think about it this way. There are labor laws. And we have to record at 68 lines an hour, and you can't efficiently record someone that's a child without taking it out to like maybe 5 or 6 weeks. And when you're doing a simul-dub schedule, it's like you have a week, so you don't have enough time to get an actual child. Plus, an actual child isn't necessarily as trained. Not that all of them aren't trained, but some of them aren't trained, and it would take a little bit longer. And in the end, with studio time, we're trying to record as fast as possible, because you have to pay the engineer, you have to pay the director, you have to pay the actor, you have to pay for the studio space. So in the end, it's a very, very, it wouldn't be fruitful to use children, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of times they do that.
I too, because with
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how did you get into voice acting?
I used to do musical theater. I was competitive in choir when I was very, very young. I started doing professional musical theater when I was 14. When I turned 18, which is really funny because during the casting I was 17. I couldn't be in the Rocky Horror Show because they were doing a crazy version of it, and I was not old enough. I needed to be 18, right? So they cast someone else as Janet. She ended up getting a role at the Alley and couldn't play the part midway through the show. So I got the call because I had just turned 18, like a couple days before, and Chris Harris is like, yes, come in to play my Janet. And I learned the show in 2 days, and I was Janet in the Rocky Horror Show. Well, I didn't, at the time I had known these other actors, but I didn't know that they were voice actors. And I was doing it with a lot of voice actors from ADV Films at the time. That was Monica Rial, was Eddie Dr. Scott. It was a swing cast, so Christopher Patton, Greg Ayers, and Chris Ayers all switched off playing Frankfurter and Riff Raff. And yeah, it was awesome, actually. They're all really good Frankfurters, and Chris Ayers is a really great Riff Raff. But Chris Ayers also directed it. Mariella Ortiz was in it. There was a lot of people from the industry in it. So Matt Greenfield, which was one of the founders of ADV, came with his wife, Tiffany, to come see it. Tiffany is the lead in Evangelion. And I didn't know any of this stuff, and he was like, hey, I want you to come in. And I was like, cool. Am I gonna sing? And he's like, no. And and I went in, it was bit parts for Gantz, and bit parts are like background walla noise and things like that, filler noise. And I remember this, he was like, well, we're gonna see if you can do this as a career. Scream like you're getting stabbed to death, go. And I did it, and he liked it. And from that point, I started doing walla in shows. I think my first show that I was on was I think it was Detective Loki Ragnarok, and I was Rhea Oshima, and that was my first like decent-sized role. Bigger than that was Fuko and Gilgamesh, and my first lead role was Alba and Jinki Extend. And it's kind of one of those things that as you go, they're always looking to expand their talent pool as directors. They want to try to not hire the same people over and over if you can. And so they'll talk to each other, hey, I have way too many girls in this, and I need a girl for this show that isn't a girl I've already casted 8 million times. They'll say, hey, I got this person. I worked with them. I like them. And that's kind of how that goes. I waited on a waiting list for FUNimation for 2 years as a working actor. And then the first thing that I did for them, it was either My Santa or Save Me Lollipop, but I don't know which one was first because I think they were at the same time. And my first big thing, really big thing for them was Black Star and Soul Eater. So it was just this little ball rolling. And nowadays, if someone asked, how do you get into voice acting? I don't think I could give them a legit answer because that was 14 years ago. I had a pager. You know what I mean? Like this isn't, there was no cell phones. We had paper scripts. We did this on tape. You had to rewind the tape. So you had to get those takes right. Nowadays, they can stretch it. They can shrink it. They can move it. They can do all these things they could not do back then. It had to fit perfect as you recorded it. So, and nowadays there's Twitch and there's like all these things and YouTube channels and these other ways that people can get famous enough to kind of get, get in there and stuff. And it wasn't that way back then. And back then, dubs weren't as popular. Dubs were like, when you told people what you did, they either thought it was all lewd material, like there was nothing else. A lot of people just thought that it was all that. And I'm like, no, I do a bunch of little kid shows, they do Hello Kitty. No, that's not what it is. There's all different genres, and I would have to explain that. But also, most people would just go, you do what? For what? Now, it's like, whoa, it's so cool, and everybody knows what it is. But back then, you had to explain for like 20 minutes. People would be like, wow, good luck. That's pretty much what I would get from people, like, oh, don't put all your eggs in that basket. You should try commercials too. You should definitely do film too. That's gonna die down. And I don't know how many people told me anime was gonna die out. Anime is a fad and it's gonna die. And now it's like, how wrong were you? It's gotten bigger and bigger, and that's thanks to you guys and what you do. You tell your friends about it and you expand it. It's thanks to that. You know what I mean? Thanks to our community, we've gotten to grow this. So that's why I say I don't care if you watch dub. I don't care if you watch sub. Just buy it and keep supporting it so we can keep doing this. Because, you know, gotta be honest, whether you like dubs or not, they're gonna get made. You know, and what's funny is that the people who hire us to make them are the Japanese creators. So, you know, I remember a lot of flack with Black Star and Soul Eater is my first boy character I had ever done. And I had put heart and soul and sweat and tears into him. And this was the last time I ever got on the internet and read the comments. Because it broke my heart, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my gosh, nobody likes it. Everybody says that, you know, you have to go to a con to actually meet people who like it. The only people who go on the internet and talk are people who talk negative. But I remember all that and being so affected by it. And when people would ask me about it, like, you know, you ruined that character, you know, blah, blah, blah. Why would you do this? And I'm like, well, the Japanese liked it. They hired me directly. So, and then what are you gonna say about that? Like, they heard my audition and they thought I was perfect to be the English version of this character. So, and a lot of times people don't realize that, is that there is a whole lot of oversight from the companies. This is their treasure. They don't just like throw it away like, oh, Funimation, go do something with that. That's not how that works. So, you know, they are there every step of the way, trying to make it something great and something that is palatable to a Western audience so we can expand our audience, you know? Kind of went off on a tangent, really bad on that one, sorry. Yes, in the back.
What was the most difficult role you've ever had to play?
So vocally difficult, I would say Black Star, because you can do a boy character without it being raspy. The minute you add in the raspy, it becomes really difficult on the vocal cords, and he screams a lot. So like, I could do a boy that doesn't have the rasp, but the second you put in that rasp, it's really hard to deal with, right? And people don't speak, I don't speak naturally that way. So if you use your instrument in a way that doesn't come natural, you stress it, you know? And I know that I can do that voice for 4 hours. I can do other girl voices afterwards, but I can only do that voice for 4 hours, and then I must stop, no matter if it's gone or not, because it will go. And then once it gets damaged, there's really no going back. You have to vocal rest. But I think acting-wise, most difficult was Ikaros from Heaven's Lost Property. Because I am very colorful. I'm a very colorful person, and I'm very full of energy, and she is void of emotion. So if you guys haven't seen Heaven's Lost Property, there are angeloids that come from heaven. They are missing one of three things. So either they can fight really good, they're great at battle, they're either, or they're smart, or they have emotion. So my character is void of emotion. So she is awesome in battle. She is a really smart person, or angeloid, and but she doesn't have emotion. She doesn't know how to have emotion. There's a point where they try to teach her to smile, and then they just tape her face because she just keeps saying smiling, smiling. But I remember recording Yes Master about 150 times because every time I did it, Evans would be like, nah, it's too much Brittney. Take out the Brittney. Too much Brittney. And then it was even more difficult because as she goes in, like when we get into the OVAs, she starts to actually feel emotion and have emotion. So it was like I needed to put in emotion but not go full Brittney. So that was a challenge for me, and it was a good challenge though. It was never like, I wouldn't put it as difficult because that's what actors live for. It's just a challenge, which makes it more fun. Yeah. Yes?
First, I just wanted to say that for all the work and everything that you put into everything, I know everyone here does, but I just wanted to say personally that I really appreciate it, and it's been kind of a stressful year for me, so you've helped me get through a lot of stuff, so thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Thanks for watching. I can't do it without y'all. So.
Second, Ikaros is my favorite one.
Thank you.
So that was a good start. My question was, is there anyone in Funimation, or even if you work outside of Sentai Filmworks and stuff like that, is there anyone in particular that you really enjoy working with in terms of like other voice actors? You just kind of, that turned out really well. I can't wait to work with them again, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, when we come to, we don't start out as friends. We don't actually get to see each other. You see each other at cons. So anytime now that I'm like, Jamie's in a role, I'm like, oh yeah, get it girl. Like, she's my friend. So I'm just like, that's awesome. Like, good for her. One of the things about voice acting is that though it is competitive, there is no two people that can have the same voice. So though it is competitive, we realize you can't be right for every role. And when your friend gets it, you're like, oh, well, that's totally way better for the character. You know what I mean? But yeah, if any of my friends are in a role, I'm like, yeah, I get really excited about it. When they're successful, I like that. I want my friends to be successful. But we don't actually ever get to like work with each other, if that makes any sense. We're never in the booth at the same time. I remember we did Go Danner, and they tried to do the double boot thing because we were in pairs. That was terrible. It did not work out. Because what happens is they've got two really hot mics. These mics are so hot, they can pick up your stomach growling. They can pick up anything. You know, if your foot squeaks, if you let out a toot that you thought nobody heard, all of that you can hear on the microphone, clear as day, right? So what would happen is one side's recording, and so, for example, I'm doing a battle scream, and the other person takes a drink of water, and it's like, during the battle scream. So then you have to redo the battle scream, you know what I mean? Or then the other person's recording a line, and my stomach growls, and I can't even control that, but it happened, and so they have to redo it, and so it wasn't, like, efficient. To do it that way. Plus, the Japanese are doing prelay, so they can go in and kind of have fun with it and all that, but what we have to match what is already there. So we're kind of limited by that. We don't get to actually go in. But I definitely get excited when I see my friends in shows and see them be successful. Yeah, got to build each other up. Yes?
So one of the shows, Railgun, that you did, there's like a couple of episodes where it's like, this happens a couple times, where one actor basically just dominates entire episodes. And Railgun in particular, because you played like hundreds of characters at the same time.
Yeah.
Did you do that in like one take, just having conversations with yourself?
No.
Or did you actually get to do it bit by bit by bit?
Yeah, every 1,000 Misaka was done separately. And the reason they do that is because they complete each other's sentences. Each of them are just saying one word. And if we recorded it together, it would sound just like one sentence. It wouldn't sound like different people talking. So we'd come in for every and.
But they sound the same, though.
Well, they should, because they're all clones. They all have exactly the same vocal cords. But we didn't want it to sound connected. We don't want it to sound like a smooth legato sentence. We wanted it to sound choppy and separated and so though they sound the same, though they have the same vocal cords, because they're supposed to sound the same, we wanted them to sound like they're coming in at different times, and they're actually different people. So we recorded every single one of them separately. So more recently when we added Misaka Worst, it's funny because we'll do like Source Connect, and so that means that Source Connect they are in Dallas. There is a director and an engineer in Dallas. We can hear each other in real time, and we watch it in real time. They're running it over there. I have an engineer here that is like clipping it together and sending it back, and then they edit it, and we have the technology now to do this. This is why we can record somewhere else, right? But what's funny is we'll go in, and Afshar, the guy who we do Source Connect with in Houston, will be like, oh, don't worry, it's only like a couple lines. And I'm like, oh, no, that's just one Misaka. Go down, there's a lot of them. Like, if you see anything with a Misaka on it, and he's like, also check out Last Order, because it's regular Misaka, Mikoto Misaka, then there's all of the clones, and then there's Last Order, and now there's Misaka Worst. So I can't imagine what Railgun, the new Railgun, is gonna be. It's gonna be. I was a little nervous, I must admit, because with the new Misaka, I was like, I don't know if I have anything else I can do, you guys. There's another Misaka, and then we found out that she was like this overtly sexy kind of dark Misaka, and I was like, oh gosh, I am so thankful. I was like, I don't think I have anything else in the can, you guys. I don't know what else I can do here. But yeah, we recorded them all separately to try to make it a little bit more realistic. Yes.
What's your favorite character trait for Blackstar and Wendy?
Can you imagine them in a room together? I feel like Wendy would try to heal his brain. I think she'd be like, I can help you, and he would be oblivious. He'd be like, yeah, I'm the biggest star. I know you want to get stuff out of me. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I imagine would happen. It would just be like clash. I find it endearing that Blackstar is so insecure, because there's something very realistic and human about that. And that anybody who does have that personality type, which is almost like full of ego, usually they're very insecure people. And they have that when it comes to Blackstar right on the nose. That is exactly, he doesn't feel confident in himself. That's why he portrays this overconfidence. And Wendy is just, I think, is a very good example for girls, for women nowadays, for little girls growing up. It's something that when my daughter's old enough to see violence and things like that, because she's 4, but when she's old enough to see that kind of stuff, when she's about 13, I would like her to watch this. I think that Wendy is a good role model. Because when she started out, I remember recording her and being like, oh my God, if this girl says sorry one more time, because I'm that person. I say sorry all the time. So it's something I don't like about myself. So it was like I was seeing this in a character like, oh, that's annoying, stop doing it. Be confident in yourself, you know? And then Carla was kind of this like naggy mom type. You know, she was just overbearing and, you know, Wendy all the time. And I was just like, ah. So I remember at the beginning being like, oh man, why doesn't she believe in herself? And she's very codependent and doesn't realize her own power and weak-minded, not weak, but you know what I mean? Her mind is weak. And you don't blame her. I mean, does everybody know about Wendy and her history before I give away some spoilers? No? Okay, so because of her history, it makes sense why she wouldn't be confident. Because for her, things have been illusion. And the closest thing she's ever had to a mother had to leave. That is not a spoiler, just so y'all know. It's okay, don't worry about it. You're still good, you're still good. But because of that, watching her actually not be a stagnant character and watching her grow throughout Fairy Tail has been an amazing experience. She has gone from this codependent, weak-minded, really, you know, with a naggy mom type of deal to now Carla's like super proud of her. She is super strong, she is confident. She's a woman now and she believes in herself. You know, and now Wendy is never second guessing herself. She's not like, oh, maybe I can help. She's like, I've got this. You know what I mean? There's something really cool about that. And then the most shining moment I've seen so far, not in the series, but was in Dragon Cry. Has anybody seen Dragon Cry here? So y'all know the moment that I'm talking about. Where there was a moment where I was like, I looked at the director, I was like, are they gonna kill her? Because I'm gonna be real mad. I'm gonna be really mad if they waited this long. And now they're gonna, you know, and of course it's Fairy Tail, so no, because nobody ever actually dies in Fairy Tail. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but for a second I was like, for real, I was like, is this Tyler? Is this gonna happen? But during that moment, that was like her pinnacle for me of just seeing like so much strength inside of her. And so she's a really good role model, I think, for women. Yeah. Yes?
Can you tell us your experience in voice acting in a show called Poni Dash?
Oh my gosh, it was great, that show. I mean, it was nuts. There's no like actual anything for it. I had to drink a lot of coffee to try to do that. We tried to do the, you know that part where she's like, oh my God, Becky, you're so blah, blah, blah. Like, we tried to do that in real time. It was too fast. I couldn't make it happen. But we didn't speed it up that much. So there, I played Himeko Katagiri in Pani Poni Dash. Pani Poni Dash was apparently a kind of like, almost like Pop Team Epic for a few years ago. So it has no real line. It would make fun of TV shows that we haven't seen because they were Japanese TV shows. And, you know, so everything was just insane. And it was like Xenosaga and Azumanga Daioh had a baby. That's what that show was. But it was really fun, honestly. She's one of my favorite characters of all time. And I think my favorite part is whenever she lost her cowlick. So she always would say Maho, but when she loses her cowlick, she would say Maho-ran, and that was really funny to me all the time. But yeah, it was a good experience. We did a bunch of extras for that, and Stephen Foster used to actually really get into the shows, and he would do a bunch of extra stuff. I remember when we did Gilgamesh, we had to wear black in the studio, and he got like a bunch of black trees and skeletal statues and like decorated it out and stuff. When he did, gosh, I don't know because I wasn't actually in it, but something like Stone Words or Words of Stone or something like that. He had a bunch of river rocks in the studio that you would stand in. Like, he would get into it, which is, somebody may not, you know, a lot of people may not know that. As much as he might have changed your anime, he was really passionate about it. But yeah, so the experience was wonderful. It was always actually really fun working with Steven. He was unpredictable and awesome in that way. Like, and when he approved of you, you knew it was a really big deal because the best you'd ever get is like, eh. You know what I mean? That was like Matt Greenfield. The best thing you're gonna get out of him is like, that wasn't bad. And you're like, yes, I did great. Because that's like the best you're ever gonna get out of him. But yeah, the experience was wonderful, man. That was great. Anybody? I like pepperoni pizza. I like, yes, in the back.
Yuki Takia is my favorite character you voiced, and I wondered if you got to know before time the end of the first episode, or if you went into it blind.
I didn't hear the character. What was it?
Yuki Takia from school.
Oh. No, I did not know. They did not tell me, and I was like, God, this is so sweet. What a sweet show. What a cute character. And then I'm like, wow, that is dark. But you know what? Now I expect that from Sentai Filmworks. Filmworks. I just do. And ADV too, because it's like, for the shows that I've done with them, so I did Angel Beats. I was Yuri in Angel Beats with them. I was Ryu in Clannad. I was IU in Kanon. I feel like they just like to make you cry. You know what I mean? Like Made in Abyss, I'm Nanachi in Made in Abyss. That rips my heart out. So I'm like, I feel like Sentai has a thing for things that just make you horribly sad, in the best way, like something you want to. Yuki is a super tragic character, because that's the thing, and that's what's so realistic about anime, is that there's a lot about it that is very human, in that you meeting Yuki would not realize that she had necessarily anything wrong if you didn't know what was going on in the world, you know, and that her denial is very human, her shock and denial. Without giving away any spoilers, I'm trying to think of how I can talk more about that. But yeah, when the room changed, I had to experience that just as you guys experienced it, and it was shocking and terrible, and I was like, thanks, Chris. You gonna tell me, or just, you know? No, but sometimes they don't tell you because they want you to experience, because we record at Sentai Filmworks with the chase method. So we don't get to like stop in between every line and have direction per line like at Funimation or at Okratron. When we do the chase method at Sentai, they just run the anime in real time and skip in between anything that's like a huge block, and then you just chase it. So they'll say the line, and you say it afterwards while the next line is being said. And then you say the line afterwards while the next line is being said. And you do a bunch of cold reads in one takes, and then they will go back, fit it, and if it doesn't fit, they won't use it, you'll redo it, or if it needs to be changed, you redo it. But because of the way that you're recording like that, it's a little bit, you get more of a realistic read if you just let people see it in real time. So you can get that real shock. I do appreciate that. It's better to, you know, look out, than go, beep, beep, beep. Look out, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's a little bit more realistic to do it that way. So I do appreciate that. But that's what I was raised on, was chase method, so. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, speaking of the chase method, have you ever done something, or you were in the process of recording, and as it was going, you skipped it because you were so into what you were watching?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Also, just say, I will mess up, like, I never mess up like a Japanese name. I mess up like probably, or like will. Something just really easy to say, and I just, you know, like I can't say he today. I don't know why. Yeah, and I'll definitely miss stuff. When I was doing Made in Abyss, I ended up being off mic because I was really crying during this one scene. If you guys have seen it, you know the scene I'm talking about. It's just really sad. And now that I've had a child, I have like really hardcore sensitivity with anything that has to do with children, so I'm just like a big bag of tears in that show. But I was actually crying, and they have like a really hot mic, like very high up, and I got tube underneath it, so everything kind of sounded like it was in a room, like an echoey room, when it got recorded, so I had to actually go back and re-record that terrible scene. And not terrible in the best way. Rip your heart out terrible, not a terrible scene. But yeah, I had to go back and re-record that, and then I cried all over it, and I had to feel all that pain again. And now they're making a movie, so they just like want me to just, I saw the premiere of that, and I was like, why? Why are you doing this to me? But yeah, I've definitely done that. I mean, I never go in and I'm perfect in the booth. There's no such thing as that. There's just people who mess up less and people who mess up more, and that depends on the character. Like, I did not mess up very much recording Migi from Parasite the Maxim. But it was just a super comfortable vocal range for me, and I could just do that all day. I mean, he had like no emotion, so it was just, you know, that was a lot of one takes and cold reads. But if it's like a super colorful character or a character that laughs a lot, those are a little harder to tag up and make sound realistic with, you know, on the spot. Those are the hardest thing for me, is to laugh on the spot and make it sound realistic, unless it's like a Black Star laugh, which is like, ha, 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 you know what I mean? Like, but if it's something that's like, those are hard to try to tag. So yeah, I mean, I mess up quite a bit.
What about like your more stoic characters, like your character Jake, for instance?
Yeah, those are a little bit more in my comfort zone. Those are a little bit more easy for me. The whispery ones, or the ones that, now after I've done Ikaros from Heaven's Lost Property, I feel like I've got that skill. But before then, I don't think that I did. You know, and that's the thing, that you can surprise yourself as an actor, and that you could have been doing this for years and years and years and find something brand new you can do later. Like Migi, which was only a couple years ago. And now I played a lot of characters in that similar vocal range, but I didn't even know I was capable of that before him. You know, and when I went in to record Migi, I wasn't recording Migi. I went in to record a different character. I never found out what that character was because it got recast. I go in, they had the Japanese there. They had auditioned and auditioned and auditioned for Migi, and they had not found anybody good that they wanted. And not good, of course good, but not people that they wanted to play Migi because they really wanted it to sound just like the Japanese Seiyu. And I went in, and there was some talking, and they heard me talk, and then it was like, right? And Kyle gets on, and he's like, well, I was gonna have you read for this character, but instead, you're gonna audition for the main character. This is Migi, and he just shows me the thing, and I audition right there on the spot, and they cast me on the spot. Because apparently just hearing me talk, they were like, oh, you sound like Migi. Because I have this helium quality to me. Which when I was younger, everybody teased me for, but it worked out in the end, I guess. But yeah, so they just heard me talk and were like, you are Migi, that's who you are. And I remember hurting my jaw when I did the audition, because it was the audition where he comes out of the hand, and he doesn't yet know how to use his mouth. And so I remember really, and I messed my jaw up doing it. Yeah. Sorry, I went off on a tangent for that one. Yes?
Do you get scheduled for commentaries the same way as the regular lines that you do, or
Mm-hmm.
do they just add it in at the end, basically?
You always get scheduled the same. You get scheduled by hours. It depends on where the commentary is. Like at Funimation, they pay a different rate for the commentary, but you get scheduled the same. Like I just get a call from Tara, and she says, you have 2 hours of commentary for this show. And then, you go in and do the commentary regular. But if it's, it depends on the studio. They're all different, how they do everything and how they rate everything. And, we live in a right-to-work state, so there's no basic rate of anything. Yeah. Yes?
How do you feel about the ending of Angels of Death?
Angels of Death just made me feel weird, man. I played like the creepiest character, you guys. My character was a boy that would tend graves, and he wanted to kill the main character so he could watch over her grave forever. It's just as creepy as that sounds, right? I'm like, awkward turtle. Yeah, and he was fun to play. It's very fun to play a creepy character, but I don't know about how I feel about the ending, because it was just such a weird show in general. You know what I mean? Cool and different, but weird. I feel like it could still go on, though. There's still ways. Anime finds ways. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that I'm waiting for another one of, like Angel Beats. Maybe one day that will happen. I don't see any reason that shouldn't, or a new Soul Eater or something like that. But yeah, the ending was what it should have been, But the whole show for me was just a bit awkward. Like that kid's creepy. Like if that kid came to my kid's birthday party, I'd be like, I'm sorry, your mom needs to pick you up. You can't play with my daughter. No. I just want to watch over your grave. It was actually kind of sad for him, though. His story in the end is really sad, so. Because that's what anime does. They give you a reason why the person is. Yeah, and then you're like, wow, I feel empathetic and sad now for them, and still I think they're where they should be. Yeah. Yes.
There have been any roles you've done that your family has watched and really surprised by or really impressed that you were able to pull it off?
My husband has watched a lot more than my daughter has watched. She's 4, so pretty much almost anything I do, she can't watch. I mean, if fairy tale's too risque, think about it. There's not much else. Because she can't watch violence, and she can't watch, nudity or things that are over-sexualized and stuff. I don't want her to be making boob jokes in kindergarten. You know what I mean?
Not much anime at all.
There really isn't a lot of anime that would be appropriate to an American audience for a 4-year-old. But there are things that I've done that she can watch. She can watch Monster Hunter Stories right on, and I'm lewd in that. But she doesn't recognize me in the boy roles. She doesn't hear me. She doesn't know it's me. She'll, she's seen bits of Fairy Tale, but just bits that I have filtered out that she can't see. Which a lot of Wendy's stuff is fine. It's just that right afterwards they'll make a boob joke or something, and so I've just. But she also recently has been watching Hakume and Mikoto, which is, she can watch that, and that's a really nice little, I don't know how to describe that anime. It's so calming and comforting. If you ever want to just watch something that makes you feel just good and peaceful, that's the one. It's 2 tiny little tree people, and they live in a tree, and they ride around on beetles, and all they do is they eat, and they have beers and stuff, and they're they're super cool. I don't know how to describe it. But she watches that and she's, she tells me, she said, I really like your character. And she has a lot of toys. Like she can't watch At Time I Got Reincarnated as a slime, but this is hers. But she can't watch it, obviously, but she calls it her blubby. And she was very upset I was gonna take it, but this is the best plain pillow ever, you guys. I don't even understand. She also has a Nanachi, and she's pretty much never gonna watch that. So, I mean, I don't know when she's ever gonna, maybe she'll watch it, but in the very far future, because that is a very twisted show with a lot of darkness, and I don't know, maybe when she's like 15 or something, that would be an appropriate age for that. Maybe even not, maybe older, because it's got a lot of violence and blood and gore, and I'm not trying to give her nightmares. But yeah, when she does see it, she thinks it's cool. She has told me she wants to be a voice actress, and I'm like, I'm like, be a doctor. I'm like, no, it's such a struggle. Because, it is, as an actor, you are unemployed quite a bit. Anytime that you finish a contract, you're unemployed. You audition maybe 50 to 100 times before you get a role. So it's a lot of rejection, and it isn't for everyone. You have to be able to pick yourself back up and believe in yourself no matter how many people tell you you're bad. And people are gonna do that. That's this career, that's what this is. It is, fellow actors will knock you down, directors will knock you down because they're not, either there's something you do that they are jealous of, or they really don't think you're that great. But what you gotta do is you just gotta go, whatever, I guess you're lost, move on.
Everybody on the internet might do that.
Everybody on the internet just does that, yeah. People on YouTube are especially vicious, and it's very confusing because it's mostly just people who say, "Oh, well, the sub is better," and it's like, it says Funimation at the top of this. Why did you click this? Like, I don't care what you watch, but it's like you're just trolling to troll. There's no reason to even look at it. If you don't watch it, then don't watch it, But yeah, I sometimes will get on the internet, but then usually I'm sad afterwards. Reddit is very kind. It's very, I like Reddit more. People are more kind on Reddit. Even if they say they don't like something, they'll be like, but I've heard this girl do a different character and I like that one, you know what I mean? So there's a little bit more positivity on Reddit than YouTube and some other stuff that's just viciousness. I feel like it's just like 5 people, they just get on every post.
Twitter can get vicious.
Twitter
can get really vicious.
Yes, Twitter can get vicious, but role-wise, the most I've ever had is people who get on and they're like, this sounds like Poppyka from Flip Flappers, and I'm like, and I want to say which Poppyka, because there's like 12 of them, and none of them sound the same, so what are you talking about? But there's nothing, you can't really argue, so what I do is I go, you think so? And that's it. That's what you get from me. Because the thing is, you can be the juiciest peach in the world, and there's going to be someone who doesn't like peaches. So you just got to realize not everyone's going to love you, and that's part of the job. Some people, your voice is going to annoy, and that's what it is. Too bad. That's fine. I know people, I love them, but their voice is so annoying. Right? Like, just like at dinner. It happens.
There's a lot of voice actors, people have said, like, I actually hear a really nice person, I just think this voice is, I just don't like this voice for the character and such and such.
Yeah, and usually it's, a lot of those comments don't really have much basis. It's like, I gotta be real, if you don't really know both cultures good enough to actually speak the language, how do you make a fair comparison of characters, If you don't speak both languages, how do you even know which one's better? You can't. How could you? So but I'm fine if you, like I said, whatever you watch, I'm fine with. Because it's like, you can hate dubs all you want, they're still gonna get made. And because of that, the world's growing and getting a bigger community, so just love. Life is too short. Life's too short for all that negativity and hate. Yes?
Other than like anime, do you work on any like kind of commercials or anything like that?
Yeah, you totally cannot put your eggs all in the anime basket if you want to, I have a daughter and a mortgage and a car payment and stuff, and it does not pay all of that. Like, the rates are a lot lower than you may think, which is a reason why a lot of actors have to do cons, or they have to write, or they have to do other things to try to get enough income to just pay the bills. Because when I go to Funimation to record, I drive up 4.5 hours, and I drive back 4.5 hours in the same day unless I want to pay for a hotel room. I pay for that gas, I pay for the travel, and the rate is not very high, so you might be making $300, but you're spending $150, so you're making $150 for the day. So it isn't like a whole lot of income. So I do the Kima Boardwalk commercial and Galveston Island Pleasure Pier in Houston. I've done Whataburger commercials and fast food commercials. I do the things, and like if you go to a training video for McDonald's in certain parts of Texas, I'm the voice in the training video. You know, it's like, flip the burger bun like this. You know what I mean? Or like a lot of, I've done a lot of hotel commercials where or a lot of like industrial type things where it's like things that they would show at a meeting for people that own the Hyatt or like people on the board of the Hyatt, and then it'll be like that kind of thing. So I do a lot of the boring, those things. I did a training video for like to train lifeguards. I don't know anything I was saying. I didn't know any of those words. They were really big. Like eviscerated, I don't know. They were crazy. There was a lot of crazy words. I just said them, but I had no idea what I was saying. But yeah, I definitely do a lot of other things, and that's what I tell people, that if you don't have a place to do anime in your area, you can start out with doing radio commercials and do things like that, to try to get your chops up and try to get experience acting on a microphone. So, yeah. Yes?
Do you have a favorite character archetype to play?
The crazier the better. Yeah, I like him. I especially like when they have maniacal laughter somewhere included in there, or like Senran Kagura, where I just like the whole time I'm just like, those are fun for me. If I can be really crazy, that's where I get off, or or sometimes really evil. It's very fun to play like a super crap character. It's like you can get all your anger. I try to live my life as I like to treat people how I want to be treated. And what can happen with that is it can build up frustration, and that maybe people don't treat you the way that you treat them, and it can be a frustrating experience. So am I gonna lash out at them, or am I gonna take that and bring it to the booth? I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna bring it to the booth. And that's a really great way to get out all of that angst and anxiety and all that stuff while you're acting, and turning that nervous energy into something creative is very fun. So like the crazier the better, but also just characters that you love, like, that you've done for a long time, Mikoto, Misaka, Wendy, like those kinds are very fun. Every time you go back in, it's like, I wonder what they're gonna do with them next. Because you know them and you love them and they're part of you, Yeah. Yes?
Have you had an anime fan recognize you when you were at a non-anime job, or an audition for?
Never. I think somebody last week recognized me in the museum. I have a museum pass, and I take my daughter all the time to the museum to see the dinosaurs and whatever, all the stuff. And there was a guy, and I'm pretty sure he watched anime, but he was just like, "Thank you for gracing us with your presence." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, cool." And it didn't occur to me until later that maybe he was. It didn't even occur to me. I was like, "Wow, that was different." And walked out with Edie, and then I was like, "Oh, was he like a fan of anime?" So I don't know for sure. I had a theory, but I might be wrong, and he might have just like had a crush or something. I don't actually know. But I thought maybe, because he wasn't creepy about it, he was like, "Thank you." And so I was like, maybe he watched anime. Maybe that would be the first time, if that happened, that it has ever happened. That's the thing. Nobody really knows your face. Nobody associates my face with Black Star. Nobody does that. There's so many times people come up to like, "Oh, I didn't know you were Pride and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood," because you don't like think of a boy character or like a creature and then like put this face on it. So, that's one thing about voice acting, is that our faces aren't recognizable, which is kind of nice. I always wanted to act, but I never wanted to be in tabloids. I never wanted to go to the award ceremonies or do any of that ego thing. I'm not really into any of that stuff. I just wanted to be creative in a booth, or creative on a stage. That's why I loved theater. There's not as much fame about it. It's just you get immediate feedback from the audience on what's working, what's not. It's like a living, breathing creature, So, yeah. And I think you've had a question for a while.
So, are there any other methods how you handle stress or frustration?
Yeah, there's lots. Usually, if I'm super stressed out, I like to cook. That is a really good way to get out your stress. Or I walk my dogs, or I play with my daughter and do tea parties or something. It usually works out. Playing with her is fun. You actually just listening to her talk to another 4-year-old is the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's great. The things that are important to a 4-year-old, man. It is one. But she took my sticker. It's like, But yeah, there's a lot of ways that I deal with it, but I do, because I don't always have time in the booth, to be able to get that out. And I am a high stress, high anxiety person. I think that is common in a lot of actors. I think that you might have to have that kind of drive, that kind of nervous drive, in order to turn your nervous energy into something creative. I feel like there is a trend with people that are creative and conflict. The more conflict you have, a little bit, it sometimes lends itself to creativity. Because it's like an outlet to get rid of it, I guess. But yeah, I'll cook. I mean, I'm not saying it tastes all good, but I'll make stuff. Not pizza. I'm really terrible at pizza, honestly. Yes?
Do you still do musical theater as well as your voice acting? Or do you
I wish.
No, too much to do with the voice acting?
Well, the theater that I used to, three of the theaters I used to work in are gone now. They just failed. And I had studied musical theater at University of Houston, and I had done a few shows at the Alley Theater and Miller Outdoor Theater there, which are like their biggest theaters. But really, in the end, it isn't a career where I was going to be able to make money, unfortunately, as sad as it is. I had to sacrifice what I loved the most so that I could make some money, because you get paid for 3 to 12 shows, but you rehearse for half a year. Yeah. And it's every day, it's an everyday commitment. So you can't, it's not gonna, I was struggling to pay for my apartment when I was doing that full time. And though I was enjoying what I was doing, I wasn't gonna be able to have a future doing it. Unfortunately, it's kind of, But I found another outlet in this, and that was amazing. So, and I'm passionate about it, and I love it. So I'm very blessed in that I could do that.
I was curious to know if you had maybe done a couple of shows on the side while you were doing your voice acting.
No, I wish I could. It does take a lot of time and dedication with simuldubs. So like I am on my 4th con in a row on weekends. And then I have 2 more after this. So what happens is I'm gone from like this is Thursday to Monday. I come home and I work Tuesday at one studio, Wednesday at the next studio, and then I leave Thursday to go to Richmond. So there is absolutely no time to do a show and have that kind of, you have to be there to do the show. You have to be there every day. And I couldn't ever make that commitment. Even just taking my kid to school, couldn't do it, unfortunately. But I wish I could, because I miss it. Chris Harris and I have talked about doing a lot of shows. We wanted to. Yes?
Do you have any booth horror stories?
A lot. No, I've found very interesting. I found toenails in the booth on more than one occasion. I don't understand how that happens. I stand, some people sit, but I just can't imagine actually clipping your toenails while you're recording. Also, there is one particular situation where there was a jar and a sheet over it for a very long time. And I remember, I think I was recording Shin-Chan, but it was around the time of Shin-Chan. If it wasn't during Shin-Chan, it was around that time that I was recording that day. And I just decided to take the sheet off. I just wanted to know what was in it. And that was a mistake. And it was a fart. I don't know if somebody was refreshing it. It had been there for so long. I couldn't imagine that it stayed in that jar, but it did. And yeah, I took the sheet off, and like the director and engineer ran to the door and held it closed. And I was like, "No, let me out!" And it was a whole thing. Yeah. Yeah, I found weird things in booths, though. I found a lot of weird things. People get nervous, so they'll rip up things, little bits of things, and so there'll be fingernails and just weird things, and then, they have to be cleaned very often. But yeah, I don't really have any like horror stories. I've had uncomfortable moments. I would say recording Monster Musume was very uncomfortable because I was recording it with someone that has known me since I was a kid, and the noises that we make are very lewd. And there was this one part with an egg, if you've seen it. And I remember saying, you know what, I think I could match that up a little bit better. And he was like, nope, moving on, we're moving on. Next, and just change the page, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that was gone. Thank you, 5. So we have 5 more minutes. Does anybody have any burning questions? Yes?
Of all characters you've done, are there any you kind of wish you could have redone in some other way?
A lot of them, but that's just because I'm an overcritical actor. And that's what I'm a perfectionist, but that doesn't mean that what I did wasn't good, or that if I redid it, it would be any better. Because in the end, the director has this entire picture of what the show's supposed to be. They have a vision of how the characters should sound off of each other. You know, how it should sound as an ensemble, how it should all go together, what the end of the story is. We know none of this. So it's our job to go in there and be a blank canvas and let the director paint us the color we're supposed to be. So if you go in there and you have your own opinions on, oh, but this isn't how you say this name, or this isn't, you know, you're really just creating a conflict in the booth, and they're not gonna hire you again, honestly, if I'm gonna be real. Like, if you go in and you're like, that's not how you pronounce that, and this isn't what the Japanese thought, they're gonna be like, oh, really? Because I talked to them last night, but okay, let's just get out. You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, so really you gotta go in and kind of trust that they know what they're doing, and they know what this is supposed to be. And if they like the take, it's the take it should be. You know, in the end, the final decisions are not ours. You know what I mean? We just go in and we're like, what do you want? We'll do our best to do what they want, you know? Yes?
How many seasons do you think Rimuru is gonna get?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's like they finished the manga, and then I was really sad. I didn't think they were gonna do a second season, you guys. I was actually like depressed for a couple days because he's my slime bra. But then we found out that they are making a new one. I don't know, it hasn't been officially licensed by Funimation. So I'm hoping that it goes to Funimation. I can't see why it wouldn't, but you never know. Sometimes things go other places. If I was recast as Rimuru, I will admit I will cry, because he's my baby. But I know that they're gonna make a new season that comes out in 2020, and it's gonna be based off the light novels. Now, there is nothing after that. So I don't know if it'll be one of those things where they just create something new, or if the light novels will continue at some point, or, you know, what. I'm hoping it goes on forever, like Dragon Ball Z, because I think he's amazing, and he can predator everyone. Exactly, I would be down. You know what would be really funny? I'm sorry. It would be funny if they did like an OVA that had nothing to do with the show, and since he can eat, he figured out how to poop. because all those people would come out. I mean, think about it. He'd be like, oh, Veldora! You know? I don't know, I think that would be great. If everybody just came out. They were like, thank you, Rimuru, for figuring it out. I don't know, that's just me. I have a mind of a little boy. Yes.
Do you have a favorite musical?
Oh man, so many. I love the Rocky Horror Show. My favorite musical that I was actually in was Seussical the Musical. I was Gertrude McFuzz. Yeah, I have a lot of favorite musicals though. It goes on forever. I like Cabaret too. Best Little Whorehouse in Texas is really great. There's a lot of them. I never was in a musical and didn't like enjoy what I was doing, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I guess those would be some of them. I'm really bad at picking favorites. I don't do it. I'm like a mush. I'm a middle girl. Anybody else? Last question? Last burning question? Yes, in the back.
When you're kind of out and about, either at the con or at a museum with your daughter, do you ever overhear a conversation? There's just a voice that you're kind of maybe drawn to, or that you're kind of thinking, hey, I think that they could probably do something here.
Yeah, totally, all the time. I mean, I'm not a director, so like I'm not a director, I'm not a casting director. None of that is like within my job field. But there's definitely times when there's a lot of people that'll come up to the booth, say, hey, I want to be a voice actor. I'm like, you could. I mean, a lot of people think that it's an easy job, unfortunately. A lot of people think that I want to be a voice actor because I don't want to be in front of the camera, but I want to act, because they think it's like a cloistered thing, but it's not, it's the same thing. So as long as the person is realistic about what it actually is, there's a lot of people that could do it. There's a voice, every voice type is an anime. Every voice type. There's grandmas, there's old people, there's ingenues, there's a place for everyone in this community and in the work. It's just if you actually realize what it really is, and that it is just as much acting as film and television and stage. It's all the same thing, you know. But yeah, all the time there's people that come up that I'm like, you could most definitely do it. Yeah, it's achievable, but it's not easy. Yeah, that's my turbo. Eye ring. Okay, anybody? Is it less? Yeah? All right, thanks guys. I appreciate y'all so much.